Hey, what's up, Fish Tank World? The Awkward Redneck here. Just filling you in on what I've got going on right now. I decided to rip out the dwarf hair grass. No, excuse me. The dwarf baby tears. It just wasn't growing for me. I mean, it was healthy. It was green. It just wasn't spreading. I couldn't get it to grow. I mean, I've got highlight, checked the CO2, and it just wasn't working for me. So I was getting tired of it. And dwarf hair grass has worked great for me in the past. So decided to go ahead and do a little small dwarf hair grass patch carpet. And just want to show you what I'm doing and document my progress on this dwarf hair grass carpet. It's just a real small area, but I think it'll look good. And as you can see, I've separated these out. I mean, I've got a couple of pots. I've got one right here. I've already got one in the tank that I've already separated out, and still got another half a thing to go. So I had 3 of them total. And the key to the dwarf hair grass, and I've seen a lot of people make this mistake, and you don't want to make the mistake either. I've seen big clumps of it. People like put them in big clumps and try to plant it. You want to, when you pull this apart, let me see if I can do this. I mean, it comes right out of the felt, and there's already going to be runners in here. So what you want to do is, if you can see that's a runner right there. So it's already got it all separated up in there. So you just want to pull that apart into a small section. Pull that extra wool off, and then there you go. And then that could even be separated again. But we'll leave that like that. And that's pretty much the key. Get these in the smallest. Well, let's go ahead and just, because you can see it wants to break apart. So just let it break apart. Get it into very small sections. And there you go. You got one right there and one right there. I've seen that it tends to work better when you have it in these smaller sections like this, instead of having them so clumped together. They tend to spread out, and it also gives you a lot more plugs to plant in there to get runners off of. So I'm going to go ahead and finish propagating these out, getting these plugs ready, and then I'll come back and show you the progress on day 1 of it being planted, and we'll follow the progress and see how this DHG Dwarf Hair Grass carpet works out. So let me get these planted, and we'll be back. Alright guys, back with you now. It's the next day. Decided to hold off since the tank was a little cloudy, since I did a lot of moving around and added new plants. But got the dwarf hair grass put in, and just want to give you a quick little overview of what I did. Just added this dwarf hair grass down here. I had some dwarf baby tears, and it just wasn't working out for me. I mean, I was doing everything I could, injecting CO2, highlight, and it was green healthy, just wasn't really growing. But I wanted to touch on some things about this dwarf hair grass that I've seen some people do. And it's all about knowing your tank and your tank's personality. And there's a lot of great videos on YouTube about dwarf hair grass and how to propagate it, how to plant it. And this is what works for me, and seems to work for me in my tank. And if you're having problems growing the dwarf hair grass, you might want to try considering this and see if it works out for you. Now what I've done is I've propagated these down to the smallest little plugs as you can get. And the reason being is I've seen people grow these in clumps, and I've also seen people grow these in clumps or try to grow them in clumps, and it didn't work out for them. So what's worked out for me is I've separated these down into the smallest plugs as possible. And what this will do is it'll allow more runners to run out from these plugs and not compete over each other. And when that happens, the more runners you get, the faster this will fill in for you. And there's some people who trim the tops off before they plant it, or after they plant it, they trim it. And that works for some people, and some people it doesn't. And what works for me is I will leave the tops on for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll let these roots get real rooted and settled into the substrate. And you're going to get some melt back, no doubt about it. And when that happens, I'll see some green growth start coming out from the base. And that's when you know the roots have really settled into the substrate. And then you can cut back that melt, because you don't want that melt, because that's making your plant work harder trying to replenish something that's not going to grow back. So once you see the base start getting really green, you know the substrate, the roots have sunk into the substrate, and it's safe to trim off that melt at the top. And that'll help stimulate the growth too once you trim it. Now you can trim this top off beforehand if you want to. But then again, like I said, you're going to get melt. So that means once this plant starts growing, and you're going to get that melt further down, and it could stunt the growth of the dwarf hair grass if you trim it beforehand, before those roots take place. And also, you'll have nothing to trim back. You won't be able to trim that melted growth back, or trim that melted growth off, I should say, because there'll be nothing there to trim back. You'd have to trim it back all the way to the substrate and then some. So I like to leave it this way without trimming it beforehand, and let the roots settle in there and get a good green growth going on. And then once I see the roots have settled and the base starts getting green, then I'll trim the top off and lower it down, and they'll start stimulating the growth, and you'll start getting runners everywhere. And if anybody's watched Amano's videos, one thing I've noticed is he plants this stuff densely. Now, it's great to have the plants and the resources he has at his expense, or at his disposal like he does. But if you notice, he plants everything really, really, really dense, and a lot of plugs. And guys, with this dwarf baby, or this dwarf hair grass, excuse me, you can make a little go a long way if you separate these out into smaller plugs and clumps, and it'll get more runners, like I said. So, and also another thing, if you don't have them yet, the aquascaping tongs or tweezers, whatever y'all like to call them, I like to call them tongs, tweezers, it doesn't really matter. They make planting this stuff a whole lot easier than trying to plant it by hand. So if you haven't got any of those, I would highly recommend getting some. I mean, you don't need the ADA. Your fish don't know any better, and certainly your plants don't know any better of what you're using. As long as you can get it done easily and without any kind of fuss, and get it done nicely. I mean, I got mine on Amazon for like $20, a 6-piece set, stainless steel. That's all you really ask for. It came in a nice little leather case, and it's worked awesome for me. So I'd highly recommend getting some of those when it comes to planting this dwarf hair grass, because it really makes your life a whole lot easier. So just wanted to let y'all know, if you're having problems growing your dwarf, hair grass, that's a tongue twister there, to maybe try separating a little bit more, get more density, cover more areas, get more runners going on, and try not trimming the tops off until you start seeing the growth and it starts melting away. Then you can trim it. So I just want to give you that little tip, guys. If you're having problems, we're going to follow this. I'll give you another update in about a week or two, and follow the growth on this and see how it works out. It's worked out for me in the past really great. So that's all I got for you today. Got some more videos coming up, some more ideas. If there's anything you want to see, or something you don't know about that you want to me do a video on, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll get back to you. So in the meantime, guys, comment, like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys, and fish on.